Hello and welcome to another Cloud Podcast, a podcast designed to bring you stories from the smartest minds in IT, operations, and business, and learn how they're using cloud technology to improve business and the customer experience. Well, it's good having you on. I mean, we had a chance to talk a little bit ago and get a background about, what you guys are doing over there at Lifesize and
Right.
and getting your background information on. I love the journey, but anyways, have you met Artie before? Artie, have you met Sarita before?
Yeah, we were all on the call together.
Yep.
Oh, that's right.
We're on it.
I've done so many of these calls recently. It's been crazy. I can't keep
feel
anything
like
straight.
They all blend together. It's like one
feel that way
8-hour
too.
long Zoom call all day.
My kids keep
One long day.
my kids keep reminding me of my age, call me an old man. So I've hit that status.
Oh, don't go there.
I've hit the status where the kids will start ripping me apart based off my age. So I'm used to it. I make mistakes all the time. But anyways, Sarita, it's great to have you on this podcast. I just love your journey and where you've been and how you've got this great balance of working for a CCaaS provider now and before, but then also coming from the prem world with Avaya. And I think you bring a really unique perspective, which is why we wanted you on this podcast.
Oh, thank you.
We really, like, a lot of times the clients are wondering, like, well, we're just doing fine with our Avaya. We're just doing fine with our Cisco PBX, and not realizing what the advantages are, or just maybe they can't get buy-in from leadership. But could you just go a little bit into just your background, how you ended up at Lifesize, and how your career ramped you up to where you're at today?
Yeah, so I was initially in the service provider space, and I actually lived on the East Coast. So I did a lot of work with people like AT&T and kind of just focusing on services. And then I moved to the West Coast, and the West Coast tends to be a high-tech hub. So then I kind of moved into not just providing, services to B2B customers or B2C customers, but then actually understanding kind of the technology behind it. So that was kind of a natural fit for me to kind of move into the world of the vendors that were actually providing the equipment that supported those services. So natural inclination was to move to working for somebody like Avaya. So that's how I ended up at Avaya, because I understood the services provided. And traditionally, it was kind of like the PBX that most customers bought. They had either a small PBX with a certain number of features, or you had a Cadillac version of the PBX, which was really what Avaya was about. So that was a natural fit for me. And then contact center was sort of an application that was dependent upon the PBX. So I started off in that space, starting out with, just really understanding telephone services. And then it all became digital over the years. But that's how it all started. And then I started to really get close to customers, and I fell in love with the CX space. And now, given that every brand is really focused on the experience and differentiating based on customer experience, that really kind of became close to my heart, because the services that we were providing and the technology that we were providing really enabled our businesses to do that. And even more so in the cloud space. But yeah, that's how it all started. And I love CX. I love customer experience, because, you're a consumer, right? So you actually see the impact of it. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And talking a little bit more about CX. So let's talk a little bit about what interests you most about CX. And then we could drill into one of those topics. Is it, customer journey mapping? Is it maybe customer segmentation? Is it voice of the customer? So tell us a little bit about customer experience and what brought you to that field and what interests you most.
Yeah, so I think when I first started out with CX and understanding it, I came at it again from, I was at Avaya, and it was really kind of the interaction. So it was a kind of the point in moment, the moment in time, the moment of truth, where you actually talk to a customer, and that's what you have, right? The agent is talking to the customer, and it's that point where you have the ability to really kind of transform what the customer is thinking about the brand, or by just really focusing in on that experience. So it first started out from a point in time where can you deliver the best possible experience to the customer at that moment in time? i.e. what tools can you provide to the agent? Can you make it easier for the agent? Can you make it seamless for the customer? But then I kind of, when you look back upon it, that is just one point of the journey. So I think it all interests me, but just because, again, I am focused on it from a communication standpoint. I look at all of those moments in time, but making sure that each moment is really a wonderful, delightful experience. But at the end of the day, it's really the opportunity for the brand to kind of make sure that the whole life cycle and the way they understand their customers is leveraging each and every point in time. So for me, it's about ensuring that when you are on the phone or you are engaging with a customer across any channel, that's a delightful experience. But for the actual business, the brand, it's really about leveraging all of that information and ensuring that every single experience prior to that, during that time, and after is connected and is actually building up a bond with your customer. It's more about, I guess, the human experience.
Absolutely. And, it's interesting being on the technology side and being with a SaaS, cloud platform provider. Where do you see, I feel like the tech companies start with the base of technology. It's like, that's their foundation. They know it. They're doing chat, they're doing email, voice, AI, sometimes just from the get-go, because they know that's what's needed. But there's a huge segment of our industry that hasn't started with that foundational, looking at technology as that foundation. Where do you see your customers or customers in the past, getting from, say, that PBX world into a more cloud environment, like some of the challenges that they face that you see?
Yeah, I think it's not only about technology, it's also about people and process. So, they might be ready to embrace a new technology, but for it to succeed, they also need to look at their people. And people, and they're, from that standpoint, I also mean the culture at the company. So, and the process, so they're all kind of tied. You can't be successful by just looking at the technology. You also need to make sure that the people and the process are on that journey. Oftentimes we see that people might be ready. There might be pockets within an organization that are ready to embrace the technology, but then they have not addressed the people and the process issues. So there might be one advocate who's very strong and wants to get on the cloud bandwagon, but then the rest of the organization is not sold on it. They don't get it. So the people and process pieces, I think, are just as important as technology.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit more about technology. Let's talk about Lifesize. So tell us a little bit about the company for the viewers who may not know you guys. What's the origin story, and then also what do you guys offer?
Yeah, sure. So we, Lifesize, we are an enterprise cloud communications provider, and we provide all kinds of solutions. We provide video solutions, collaboration solutions, and contact center solutions. Those are the three. So what do we have available to the enterprise? It's those three that we focus on. I'm focused on the contact center solution side, but I've also recently taken on supporting the collaboration and the video side of the house. So those are the three specific solutions that we offer. From a CX perspective, it's really the cloud contact center. And if people are familiar with Saranova, the contact center side of the house was a result of the merger with Saranova. But moving forward, the name that's continuing on is Lifesize. So that's that kind of tells you who we're about. We've been, we're a cloud DNA, cloud native company. Our solution, which is CX Engage, is a cloud, born in the cloud solution. So we're built on AWS, and so we can spin up instances wherever customers need, whether they're in Europe or whether they're in America, and if they need scale up or scale down, because we're cloud natives, we have the ability to do that and be very agile and support customers as they need. And that, that's the beauty about cloud, right? People want agility. So that's what we deliver on our platform.
Yeah, if you're trying to create that delightful experience, being able to do that for your clients, obviously that's a big part of it, especially with Amazon and being so flexible and having that scalability, flexibility. So many companies are seasonal, and if they're bound to a non-prem system that they can't just scale up and down, there's really lost revenue or lost ROI there based off these old systems. So talk a little bit more about the video aspect, because I think a lot of our audience might know a lot about the contact center and the regular those channels, but I'm curious to learn a little bit more about video and how that plays into the customer experience.
Yeah, so the big theme, right, with everyone, especially with the pandemic, is digital transformation. How many businesses, even though they were on their digital transformation journey, they got flat-footed. They got flat-footed during the pandemic, and they found that oh, this particular piece wasn't transformed like we thought it was. So that we are finding with our customers that has really accelerated. They had a 3-year plan. Now they want to get it done in like 6 months to 12 months. So speaking about digital transformation and video, everyone now is very comfortable with video. Everyone has video available on all the devices that they use, right? Like we are right now.
Yep.
Schools, everyone is very familiar with video. So it's become so commonplace. People are so used to it. When people think about digital transformation in the contact center, it really means one thing: omni-channel. And you're right, right, Alex. You were saying that, if people talk about the normal contact center being omni-channel, but when you think about omni-channel, many people are really offering video.
Right.
So when they think about omni-channel, they think about, okay, chat, maybe SMS, and they think about good old phone calls, right, which are still very important. But how many people are really offering video? So that's where we come in. We truly consider ourselves to be native omni-channel. And we say that for 2 reasons. One is we're offering all modalities, voice, video, and all the digital channels. That's number one. So we natively offer video in our contact center. And number 2, also the fact that we keep all the channels connected, and that we're looking at it from 2 perspectives, i.e. from the perspective of the consumer that might call and say, I started out with my agent, talking to an agent on a voice call or a chat, and I feel like I need to move to another modality. So immediately we have the ability to kind of make that customer centric and allow them to escalate as needed. And the same for the agent. It's the same agent. Most times when the technologies are offered, you need to hang up and then call back in. And even if they offer video, you got to like initiate the call separately, initiate the interaction again. So we don't do that. Our approach with Lifesize is really customer centric as well as agent centric. So video is very important to us. It's offered natively, and then we keep all our channels connected.
Yeah, and I love the example from I think it was about 12 years ago now, when Amazon first released their Kindle and they had their iPad kind of tool, and they had the Mayday button. It's like, if you ever have a problem, just hit the button, and it's a Mayday button. And it's like the first time we saw video support being something that could actually be supportive. And they ran a huge campaign on Super Bowl weekend with commercials, and there was this huge push. But I don't think the market was ready for it. But to your point, I totally agree. I think the market is ready for it. We're all so comfortable. And then this generation that had to go through school through Zoom for a year plus, they're going to grow into, like, it's not going to be, let me call my friends, let me FaceTime, or let me do a video. Like, it's just going to come naturally, especially with all the social media, with TikTok and Instagram stories and Facebook stories. Everything is visual at this point. So we've gone to that next layer. So quick question for you. I'm going to pivot a little bit. You talked about video, collaboration, and contact center. Alex and I, sometimes we help support and consult people who are focused on contact center, but they often forget the collaboration needs of the business, which is, for example, you're on a call with someone in the contact center, but you need to pull in someone who doesn't have a login to the contact center tool. So you say, all right, well, let me put you on hold and let me find the phone number. I got to dial back into the main line and do an extension to, like, this guy who's in an office that I don't even know. And then I hit the wrong extension. There's really no collaboration. They have to kind of swivel chair and use multiple tools. So can you describe how your joining of Saranova and Lifesize together, that contact center and collaboration cloud tools, how good it is?
Yeah, so those are some of the things that we're really focused on. And I think there are, this is, again, another thing that's becoming more important. What I would like to point out is we look at it as companies that are customer first. Companies that are customer first, they believe that it's not just the contact center sitting over there as an island that's supporting customers. It should be the entire business. So that's kind of our philosophy too. And when we think about our roadmap and where we're taking our platform, it is really about the customer first companies that we're looking at, because we believe that's the brand of the future. Everybody's customer first. So the collaboration between the contact center and the rest of the organization is going to be really important. So what does that start out with? That might start out with a Teams integration. So, it's just like federated presence, i.e. the agent's on a call, they know the SME, the subject matter expert, is there in the back office somewhere or part of another function. And so the initial integration might be just knowing if they're present and available for a call. So that would be federated presence, as we call it. The next step in the game would be actual collaboration and involving that person on a call if they're available, maybe a tier 3 support, somebody of that nature that's in an engineering team that needs to get pegged into the call, talking to the customer. So when we look at our roadmap, and these are things that we already do, integrations with the CRM, with other collaboration platforms. But as we look at our roadmap and what else can we do, we're really thinking about the immersive contact center, and that really double clicks into collaboration across the organization in support of delivering a great experience.
Yeah, it's so important. And what's interesting is I think about, when you're talking about that, I think about certain industries that are thriving in that customer first, and I see industries that are lagging in the customer first. And it was interesting, Artie and I had a conversation with a gentleman from a large health insurance provider recently.
Mm-hmm.
And he says there's been a big transformation from looking at the members, right? The Medicare, Medi-Cal members within their organization, and not calling them patients, or not calling, treating them more like a customer and less like a member or like a patient. And I can imagine, like, it just with with Lifesize, that having that video presence and being able to go that customer first, that's the kind of industry that's going to be disrupted soon.
Correct.
By treating the patient like a customer instead of just like a patient, right?
Right. Totally agree. Yeah, and healthcare is definitely, those are the verticals that are more interested in video. Definitely healthcare, education, and parts of finance. And even, even B2C. Even B2C folks are very interested, just because video adds an element of the ability of not just being high touch, but just people in the contact center are very interested in things like first call resolution, right? Because that is directly correlated to customer satisfaction scores. So they're interested in FCR, first call resolution. And by using video, your FCR goes up, and that really improves your CSAT.
We had a conversation. I'm going to drill into a comment you said earlier. Communication moments in time. I love that. That's a great phrase. That's perfect. And we had a conversation on a podcast episode about 2 or 3 back with Brett from Sunbasket. He's a very customer experience CX forward company, and he talks a lot about making decisions, business decisions around who to route calls to, based off of lifetime value and based off of potential value. And it's a membership-based type company where they ship out boxes to your front door, and you're literally cooking dinner that night. So if something's missing, it gets really complex, you'll want to call back in and try to figure it out with the appropriate person. So with Lifesize, what do you guys have with regards to feature set or tool set to help someone get the right customer to the right agent? Do you guys have any tools today, and how do you guys help with that routing?
Definitely. I think with routing, we have very tight integrations with the CRM. I think from a routing perspective, an intelligent routing is very important when it comes to delivering a great experience, because as I call it, who wants to be greeted with a 20 option IVR? Who wants that? You want to be, if your brand really knows you, they need to leverage all the data about you, all the past history. And if they have good AI tools and that sort of thing, then they should be able to also understand what is likely to be the experience that you really crave and want, right, to delight you. So we do have tight integration with Salesforce, as well as Zendesk, and we can do the others as well. But in terms of leveraging the data and routing, I think we can do a lot of routing based on custom objects in Salesforce. And again, if it's a VIP customer and we know that you're on the phone just by a caller ID dip, then we can pull up the CRM information that's needed, route it to the right agent, because maybe this VIP person likes to talk to one particular agent. So we route it directly to that agent, and then of course, you got all the histories offered up to the agent on one screen, right? So I think intelligent routing is very important. So either using AI, or if it's a new customer prospect and you don't really know them, or you know certain kind of profile, if it's a B2C kind of customer that's calling in, you can use some tools to figure out this is a kind of agent that's really likely to be well matched with that customer that's calling in, or it could be, just really based on how you want to set it up, based on your. I would say the most important thing is being connected to your CRM.
Yeah,
That's
and you're really
the source of truth.
you're really
Right.
arming the agent with everything they need to know and preventing them from having to ask the same questions twice or say, hold on while I look up your account, or the dreaded, what's your email address on file? Like, no one loves that.
Yeah.
But it's really
Avoid all of that.
amazing. And what else do you guys do with regards to helping the agent? Do you guys have like gamification or performance metrics that help them with their day-to-day?
Yeah, so we do have do have a lot of capabilities on workforce engagement management, as we'd like to call it. And I think Gartner's kind of elevated that, and it's no longer considered just separated workforce management or workforce optimization. And I agree with Gartner. I think that workforce engagement is really the big thing. You need to get your workforce truly engaged, and it includes several different elements. So yes, we do have in our case some of the things we offer through partnerships, like voice of the customer and gamification. Some of the things we natively built. We're of the philosophy that if there is a core competence that we don't do very well, then we'll partner with the best of breed out there. And the reason we're able to do that so well is because our design from the platform standpoint is, and this is popularized by so many folks out there, but we are an API first company, i.e. when we build our platform, everything is built with an API wrapper. So integrations and that sort of thing are very easy, not just for us internally, but also externally. So when it comes to voice of the customer and gamification, we have partnerships. But then from an engagement standpoint and workforce management standpoint, we offer a quality management module. And one of the things that we strategically decided to do on our platform is a lot of times with other providers out there, you buy the core platform from one provider and then you tag on things from other providers for workforce management. We're building everything in the core. So when somebody buys our product, our CX Engaged, they actually will get workforce engagement with it. They don't need to get a separate license.
Yeah, that's great. And one thing that I want to touch on a little bit too is like was the beauty of being a CX leader within a company that provides contact center solutions is that you get to use your own product, drink your own champagne. How do you see like your role as a customer experience leader, like, and how you manage the agents on your team, and how do you creating that experience for your customers, because they're going to ultimately do it for their customers, right?
Yeah. I think there are certain use cases that we're focusing on. Video is one of them. Of course, our CRM integration is important. So whenever there's a specific use case that we actually want to tout and want to promote with our prospects and customers, we actually use it internally. So, but for us, it would be kind of video and then our CRM integrations. And of course, our omni-channel that goes without saying. So those are the kind of we always focus on the use case rather than the technology, and use that internally and see if it works, and they're a good test bed for us. And that's kind of like how we go to market prior to a launch.
Yeah, that's a perfect example, right, of being able to test.
I'm not saying we're the best at it.
Well, I'd say that no one is, right? Every carrier,
and,
every provider has their limitations,
exactly.
right?
Yes, and every single provider and company that I've been at, we've always said that, right? We want to make sure it's all done internally, but then there's always a consideration of, well, sometimes our customers are more nimble, right? I mean, we have progressive customers and they're very quick and they're very agile. So from a product standpoint, we want to get it out there and then do the balancing act. But we try and do as much as we can.
Yeah. Well, the funny part is like, so we just, no carrier is perfect, right? And that's where it comes down to the customer experience and making that number one. So when things do go awry, it's how do you solve for that? How do you do what's right for the customer so that they're left with a positive experience? Even though something went wrong, they know technology is not perfect. The expectation for some might be that, but for the most of us, we know that carriers they're gonna have their hiccups. It's how you handle the hiccups when they happen. That's going to create that long-term sticky customer and keep that churn down.
And that is definitely a focus for us, being customer first. And everybody says that, but we try and make sure that we've got a CSM group that is very focused on our customers, and that every customer has one. So that is, and as in our pre-sales approach, also we talk about that. And so the install process being, kind of faultless, and we've got a very defined process around it. And we don't just, a lot of folks sometimes outsource everything, but we don't. We try and manage as much as we can with our resources, so we can actually train and certify and apply our touch to it.
So let's talk about future thoughts. How often do you guys do, I hate this term, software updates, because it's not software. How often do you release new features, do updates, collect information from your current customers on what tools they want in the future? Like, let's talk about the future, and is there something that you guys are working towards that you could tell us today, like a year or 2 years from now, we're really going to focus on this area?
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, we have a customer advisory board, and we're pretty active with that, with the cabs. And so it's a cloud business, right? So our minor features, they're done as frequently as possible. But the big rocks, the big cadences would be, I think we just changed it, but I believe it's 3 times a year, the big ones. But, again, like I said, we keep things fresh. So the minor releases are ongoing.
And are you guys have a third-party ecosystem cloud where you partner directly with other companies? Is that also evolving? Is that growing over time? Are you guys solidifying?
Absolutely. I think our ecosystem will only continue to grow. We want to have an active marketplace. So when people come to us and they get our platform, they know that they have the ability to get the best of breed in all the areas that we may not have our core competencies in. And so we are constantly looking at broadening and expanding our marketplace. And again, that goes back to the fact that our architecture really lends itself to it with the API first design. So we do have a team that's focused on the marketplace, and they are actively looking at, okay, where do we have gaps? First, it is, where do we have gaps and where do we need to shore it up? But then the second part is where can, we add value and provide a more complete solution for our customers. And even if they don't want to get it from us, then, the next part is it works well, it plays well with it.
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
One last question.
Yep.
Do you guys have an ideal customer? Maybe it's an industry or a size, or is it just really anybody, any size, any industry?
There are 4 verticals that we are focused on, and that's not because just our product does well in them. It's just they've gravitated towards us, and we've developed some kind of critical mass in the area. Financial is one, but I think that that's a lot of people have that as a focus. But healthcare is another one because of video. Education is another one. And then high tech. We just are naturally working with high tech software companies just because they are more agile and they're ahead of the pack, and they're more innovative when it comes to deploying customer first features. So, but in general, CX Engage actually, just because of its omni capabilities and the fact that it is really well designed, it's API first, it works well with the other verticals as well. We do have quite a few customers in retail and manufacturing.
Yeah, and those are great verticals, and there's been tons of growth in all of them, right? And they're big rocks to take care of. What's interesting is that you said it earlier, is that you want to work with companies that put the customer first, right?
Yeah.
And that's you can go to healthcare, and there's all different segments within healthcare, but really it's finding those specific companies that are really trying to transform their customer experience to be number one. So that way you align very well with those type of clients.
Totally.
What would you say internally at Lifesize that you focus on for your team as far as like metrics or any KPIs that are like 1 or 2 of the top ones that you focus on to make sure you provide that great customer experience?
For us, I've got the marketing team with me. So we are constantly focused on getting the right kinds of customers. We're very focused on our ideal customer profile. Like you said, Alex, it is about, is this customer CX first? Because we're naturally a good fit for them. So if there is a chief experience officer, if there is somebody who's got a big project around digital transformation, then those are the right kinds of customers for us. So when we go out and we're focused on demand generation. It's a big focus for my team. but that ICP, that ideal
Okay.
customer profile, if they're in that space and in any of the verticals. But if we find that there is a chief experience officer or a chief
Mhm.
customer officer, those are always good for us.
Yeah, what's interesting is that that field is so new, it seems, over the past 5 years. It's really grown where you have these chief experience officers, head of
Yeah,
customer experience. And 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that was just maybe a buzzword, but now you see it everywhere. And really that gives you the sign that they actually are a customer first type organization because they have someone that's leading the charge. And the other podcast guests we've had has said before they came on board, it was disparate. You'd have one group over here doing what they can, another group in sales doing something over here, and there was no synergy between these different departments. And having that head person to take information in from all these different departments really collects it and makes it whole to have that great customer experience because they can bring it
yeah,
together.
yeah. Exactly. And to just really to add to that, it is and you always know when you're talking to the prospect or the customer, if they have a clear vision of what it is they want to do, that's
Mhm.
always that they're focused on it. If you find people who don't know really what they want, I mean those are tougher. At least they're getting there. But
Yeah.
again, in terms of the ideal customer profile, it's kind of zeroing in on those companies where they know what they want. They have a vision. They don't know how they want to implement it, and that's the beauty of our platform. It's very
Mhm.
flexible. So we don't force fit into try and get them to force fit into our platform, right? And this again goes back to the API design. There are no two environments that are alike,
Nope.
right?
Yeah.
Everyone's got different proprietary systems, legacy systems. So they have a view of what they want to deliver, but we kind of help them out with how you can get there and put that together, the roadmap of how they can deliver against their vision.
Exactly. How do you guys work with a company who isn't necessarily customer first, but they want to implement all these cool shiny bells and whistles like chatbots, and I want to deflect 20% of my calls or chats? Do you try to refocus them and help them through the process of understanding that you have to think customer first and for it to be
Mhm.
successful? Otherwise,
Yes.
it's not going to be a successful deploy.
Yeah, yeah. I think that, using that terminology is always important, and to make it really structured, we kind of go to the table with the framework of, where are you in your journey, kind of map it out for them and talk about, okay, these are based on past experience and our history with people doing these sorts of implementations. Here's where people are successful first. And most people, they put their neck out there and they want to be successful internally. They want to be seen as successful. So just guiding them with, here's
Yeah.
where people have success, start with this, here's the next piece, and here's the next one. Having a roadmap and having a framework for how to have a common discussion, or to get people to speak the same language, I think is really important, and that's what we do. We don't just say, oh yeah, let's go, we got a bot, let's go do that.
Right.
It's probably
I
not the right approach.
I know, and it's so easy too, because it always, when Alex and I are talking to people, the first thing they say is, "We need automation. We need automation. We need automation." And then
Mhm.
when we pull the covers back, we're like, "Well, yeah, you do need some automation, but you really need to create an experience around the automation that makes sense, so
Yeah,
that it's not a bad experience." And there's this term that's out there that's called bot prison, where you accidentally create these workflows that go back into each other and you never can escape the bot, and it's always asking you, what can I help you next? And it ends up in people just being extremely frustrated. So it's important for us to help support with that, but it's great to hear that companies like yours are also helping through that transitional process,
yes,
because it's not as simple as just, oh, you want a chatbot, just turn it on, plug it in and turn it on. So that's
yeah,
great.
yeah. And look, I mean, people have data, so it's good to go back and look at your data and look at where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck, right?
Mhm.
So look at the data, look at your past history, and then figure out the 2-3 things that can, do a Pareto analysis and figure out where you can really get the hugest value for a few things. So you can focus in on those.
So we're running out of time, but what I'd like to do is hear. I love the video case studies, right? And hearing like how are companies using this video to transform and really take advantage of this new
Sure.
world of video. Is there a case study that you can share, or like a favorite example of a client where
Yeah.
you're like, they just was really unique and interesting on how they deployed video to help their customers.
Yeah, I mean, we've got more than one. One is actually one is pretty one you can imagine. One is a broadband company out of the UK, and theirs is the traditional help desk where the customers are calling in trying to get help, and immediately their FCR is going up because they have the visual. They can actually show the person on the other side of the call, here's what's wrong. I can't even plug this in, or here's what's broken. So the visual on the help desk is one, which is a slam dunk that we have a customer using us for. And there's another one also, I believe, out of the UK, which is a plumbing services company where they're able to help the tech prior to the tech getting to the location to show them where there is actually a problem with the plumbing. We have another use case where it's a pre-sales environment where people are doing quotes and they are able to provide a visual of the lawn or whatever they're trying to provide a quote for, and they're much more accurate in terms of what's needed by magnitude, by large magnitude of being like right on the money of what it's going to cost to actually get the work done. So those are some typical ones. There are some other ones where it's actually helping people in nonprofits where they're actually helping some locations where in locations where there are battered women and they need to help them support in certain areas. So the video actually helps with getting a high touch call going with a representative that's a lot more compassionate and enables them to provide a right level of support without actually being there. And because some of these are very kind of risky situations. So those are kind of some of the few use cases that we have.
I love those field service examples. And I can imagine that you're not going to see an ROI in maybe the contact center, but you'll see the ROI in the sales cycle, and having people have to not go on site 2 or 3 times before getting like that accurate quote.
Exactly.
And I could just think about the landscaping jobs that we've done. If I could just take a video or show a video, like here's
show
what
them
we've
while
done.
you're real time. Yeah.
Great. Like I don't need to come out. And then you just add on top of that, just COVID and how less contact is better.
Contactless.
Contactless, right? Contactless quotes. I just coined it right there. But,
contactless quote.
Yeah. And it just makes it so much simple. Then the crew comes out, they do the work or whatnot. And I think that it's really just, it's going video. And that's what's really interesting. Artie, you want to wrap up?
And the collaborative aspect, right? You were also asking about that. And so doing that also in the contact center will be fairly important.
Artie always has a special last question to ask.
I always do, just to have a little fun. So the question is, I'll preface it first. We always think of the negative experiences that we have first before we think of the positive experiences, the great experiences with companies or brands. Do you have a great experience that you've had in the last, 6 months to a year with a brand? And if so, you don't have to tell us the brand per se, but just tell us the experience and what made it so great.
Well, I think mine would be with an airline, so a really large airline. And it was actually a very positive experience. Well-known airline, not always known for customer experience, but in my case, it turned out to be really great. I was trying to get a reservation for my mom. She lives international, outside of the country, and the flight was canceled 3 times on other airlines. And so I called this one particular airline, and they went beyond what I would have expected to actually get her on a flight and get everything situated, because now you've got to get COVID tests, you have to get certificates and all kinds of things. So I was really pleased with this one particular airline. And I think, and also the same airline, how we were talking about who wants to go in and be asked the email address again, or you punched it through the IVR. This one where you actually call them, they actually said, you are Sarita Fernandes calling. You have a flight that was recently booked on blah, blah, blah. Is that what you're calling about? That is the experience you want.
Yep.
Oh, that is amazing. I shared this in a previous podcast, but I also had a really great experience with an airline. I'll say recently, but it was like a year ago at this point. The experience touch that I really enjoyed from them was when right before we're boarding the plane, I got a text message saying, by the way, your plane is boarding, you're, section 2 or B or whatever it is. And then after I got on the plane, because everyone gets in their seat, puts their earbuds in, they don't really listen to what's going on. There was a text message that from the it says it's from the captain, but I felt like it was very personal and said, hi, my name is Captain so-and-so. I want to welcome you to this flight. It's going to be 3 hours. It's basically the same message that they say over but no one's listening to it anymore because we have all these digital devices. And I thought that was a really good touch, especially just
really good.
Getting the person's name, like knowing who's flying the plane is just something that's old school and a nice touch. I really enjoyed that experience.
That's funny. So we both have airline stories.
I because
feel like they're stepping it up.
The industry hasn't always been the best. So when they actually start outperforming our expectations, then we're in a good spot. As long as the guy is not texting already, this is my first flight, I think you're in a good spot.
or on his phone texting while he's flying with his knee. Yeah, that would not be good.
Mid takeoff, that'd be the worst. Well, Sarita, it was an absolute pleasure. I'm so glad that we had you on the podcast, and I love what you guys are doing over at Lifesize. I think you guys are on a trajectory to really take down some good business and helping your customers continue to improve. And I love all this, your story, where you came and how you're over at Lifesize now. So thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you, Alex and Artie. And it was lovely chatting with you guys.
Well, that wraps up the show for today. Thanks for joining. And don't forget to join us next week as we bring another guest in to talk about the trends around cloud contact center and customer experience. Also, you can find us at adleradvisors.com, LinkedIn, or your favorite podcast platform. We'll see you next week on another Cloud Podcast.